Okay, what we're going to be talking about today is we're continuing with the idea of professionalism. I briefly mentioned on Monday the topic of a resume. Resumes are necessary for any professional career. What is a resume?
Basically bragging on yourself.
Bragging about yourself, yes.
It is a document in which you list your qualifications, job experience, and other achievements.
I'm going to go back to the two words that we used on Monday. Professionalism and qualifications. Okay, the whole goal of doing an interview is to understand a person's professionalism and qualification. Well, you do the same thing with a resume. A really terrible looking resume will show that you're not very good at being professional. The unfortunate thing about resumes is if you send me a resume, I can very quickly tell whether or not you're a professional person. Just by looking at your resume, did you put any time and effort into it? Does your resume look like you downloaded it from online or stole somebody else's resume? Does your resume look crisp and clean? Does it look like you spent time working on it? Did you just fill the whole thing up with words? It's not too hard to look at a resume and figure out whether or not someone is a professional. The way that it looks, the content that's on there, pretty much the whole of the resume just shows off your professionalism while stating all of your qualifications. So when it comes down to talking about your resume and going and writing a resume, which by the way, all of you will have to write a resume for next week's quiz. I'm giving you, instead of having a quiz this week, I'm giving you a quiz next week, and the quiz is to submit a resume by Friday. That's it. So you will have to write a resume for this class. But when you go to write your resume, it is very important that you emphasize your qualifications while displaying yourself as a professional. If you do not understand what it means to be a professional, then that means you didn't pay attention in this class, because that's what we're talking about. So what kind of stuff goes on a resume?
What's the job?
Okay, your job experience or your work history, that goes in here. That will always be one of your most important categories on your resume. If you've never worked a job before, your resume is going to look pretty lacking.
Your level of education.
Hey, hold on, I'm getting there. I'm talking.
I thought you were done.
I didn't ask another question.
Wow.
It's rude. I'm not inviting you to my birthday party anymore. I'm inviting you though, Duncan. You're pretty sweet.
Yes.
Today's your birthday? Well, happy birthday, man.
My imaginary cat has surgery on that day anyway.
How? It cuts me deep. My birthday's on February 12th.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the important thing about experience is experience shows that you have worked in a work environment. If you worked someplace for 2 years, it either means you're really, really necessary or you're a great worker and somebody wanted to keep you there for a while. If you worked a place for a month and that shows up on your resume, people are going to ask questions like, did you leave because you can't commit to anything? Did they quit you because, quite frankly, you never showed up? Brings a lot of questions into play. So your experience, the length of time you worked there, the responsibilities that they gave you, what they trusted you with, all of that is very important. Okay, and when you tell people, I worked there for 6 months, you better darn well have a good justification for why you only worked there 6 months. If it was a seasonal worker, that's great. and just say you're a seasonal worker, then that makes sense. But if it's, I only worked there for 6 months because I knew I could work someplace else, someplace better. I thought I was too qualified for this job. It tends to not look very good on your resume. So experience is the first one. Level of education, Jay said, is another really important one. Now, when it comes to education, what they're looking for is what schools did you attend? When did you attend them? What major were you trying to get? What was your GPA? They may also be looking for class rank, that kind of a thing. If you know what your class rank is and it makes you look good, show that. If your class rank was like really average, then you could probably ignore that. But this is, when they're asking for your education, this says a lot about you. The most defining trait about every one of you in this room is your education. Okay? All of you graduated high school. All of you you're showing up to class right now. You're paying attention. You're listening. This is what defines you. You are a college student. Okay? As of right now, you're not a college graduate. You're not a high school graduate. There is a distinct difference between being a college student, a college graduate, and a high school graduate. Those are three very different things. Just the fact that you are attending college says a lot about you. So if you do not put your college experience on here, you're cutting yourself short. Because by attending college, you're telling people, I want to advance my career. I want to end up somewhere. Whereas just by putting your high school and saying, hey, I graduated high school, not putting college, they may wonder, does this person have ambitions in life? Clearly all of you do, because you're here in this room. You have some kind of ambition. So don't forget to put Doane University that you started this year to present. You probably don't have a GPA. Mention your anticipated graduation date. You don't have a class rank. I'm just going to eliminate that right now. Okay? What other kinds of things go on your resume? Yeah?
Your objective statement.
No. Skills. I'm going to ignore that one because I'll give you okay. Some people will advise you to put an objective statement on your resume. Objective statements are great when you don't have a good resume because it's a good space filler. Relevant skills. That is not spelled right. And I don't know how to spell relevant anymore.
It's fine.
What were you going to say, Duncan?
Achievements.
Achievements. Okay, when it comes to skills, before I move on to achievements, the important thing about skills is you can list pretty much anything as a skill, except for breathing. Breathing is pretty standard. If you know how to use certain softwares, that can be a skill. Companies will sometimes hire you just because you know how to use a certain software. If you know how to work a certain machine, you've used a lathe before, you've used a CNC mill before, companies may hire you just because you know those skills. Okay? You know how to use a backhoe, you know how to use a crane, you know how to drive a tractor, you know how to operate a GPS system. Those are all skills. And not everybody takes those skills into account when they write a resume. It's not important. But if you need padding on a resume that look good, talking about skills, equipment skills, machine, hardware, even teamwork, social skills, that's all skills that you can put on your resume. It's all fair game. In Doane's program, we force you to learn teamwork skills. because teamwork skills are not a trait that just comes naturally. It has to be developed. So you will eventually all be able to put that on your resume. Accomplishments / awards. Okay? Being given an award is a statement of your character. It means you were committed to something long enough that somebody decided you were worth giving an award to. You can include your scholarships in your awards. Those do count. If you really want to talk about that. But that does actually count. What else goes on a resume? Yeah. Name and contact info. Okay, so let's say you are distributing your resume out to 100 people, or even for maybe you're trying to apply for 5 jobs. Okay, those 5 jobs we may be dealing with anywhere between 5 and 100 to sometimes 500 other resumes. Okay, if you don't put your name on your resume, they will not consider you. I have seen a resume before that didn't have the person's name on it. You hand somebody a resume that doesn't have your name on it, what are you handing them? You gotta put your name. Okay? Because they're gonna eventually look back on this document and say, who wrote this? And if they don't know whose it is, it goes straight in the trash. It takes about 2 minutes to look over a resume. Okay? If in those 2 minutes they can't read whose resume it is, it takes about 3 seconds to look over a resume before they discard it. They're not going to give you a job if you don't put your name on your resume. Okay? Don't try to prove me wrong, because I'm sure you could probably prove me wrong there. But it's a really dumb idea. Contact information. The important thing about contact information is that they know how to contact you back. You give them a resume. Sometimes a resume is all they have of yours. In a work environment, you go to a job fair, you have a printed resume, you hand it to them. They didn't take notes on who you are. They just have a resume. Maybe they'll even write notes on your resume. I've seen that happen before. Or they'll say, oh, this person is a really good communicator. This person does not speak well. This person is terrifying. They will take notes on your resume sometimes and then put it in a pile. And then at the end of the fair, they'll go back and review all 100 of the resumes they have. And they'll look through, and the ones that don't have names get thrown in the trash right away. The ones where it was clearly somebody who did not have any idea what they were doing on their resume, those go in the trash right away. The people who have valid work experience and skills, those stay in the keep pile. People who have good educational experiences, high GPA. Yes, your GPA matters a lot at this stage in your life. It will not matter as much in 5 years. It will not matter hardly at all in 10 years. But your GPA for the next 4 years are going to be the most important thing that you can do. Probably even more important than your work experience. If you're a terrible student, your GPA is going to suck, and you're going to have a hard time getting a job. You have a really good GPA, companies will look at your GPA, and they'll say, oh, this person really devotes themselves to school. Okay? But when they go back and they look through your resume and they find things that they like, they need to know how to contact you back. I had a question in the morning class, should I include my social media in my resume? You only really want to include things in your resume that point out your professionalism and your qualifications. If on your social media you talk about butts, you make fart jokes, you have videos of yourself lighting your farts on fire, that's probably not good for a resume, okay?
Delete those videos.
What?
So I should delete those videos?
Just don't include them. Some employers, the first thing they will do when they get employees is they will go stalk you on Facebook. FYI, it's important to have a professional appearance on your social media no matter what, but don't include it on your resume if you don't want them to look at it.
Just make your accounts private.
You can do that too. That works. But when it comes to contact info, give them the best way to contact you. Your email will probably be best, your phone number. If you want them to follow your social media accounts, I promise you, you give them an invitation to look at them, they will. Because it's a great way to stalk somebody in their personal life. Okay, what other things go on a resume? Organizations. Yep. Involvement in organizations. If you're a member of a church, you're a member of a club, you're a member of some national organization, you did clubs in high school, you can put those. Anything that shows that you care about the community and that you want to be around other people. As apparently being a loner is not a very good skill on a resume.
That involve like community service and stuff.
Not quite. That's volunteering, and that is a separate section. What? You're talking to me? So anyways, oh yeah, this street goes 2 ways.
Okay. I'm less whiny about it though.
That's true, yeah, you take it a lot better.
You can't help we're always alone.
Well, then you can still do volunteering.
My folks just don't want to volunteer.
Well, then you better focus on your other ones. Let's talk about this quick though. Volunteering is a statement of your professionalism. Not everybody sees it as that way. It's not really a statement of your qualifications. It's a statement of how much you care. If you go out and you volunteer regularly, weekly, you serve soup at homeless kitchens, you're probably not the kind of guy who serves soup at a homeless kitchen and then goes home and beats his wife. Okay? Those usually do not exist together. Kindness and compassion is a skill that takes a lot of time. And if you're busy using kindness and compassion in the community, it says a lot about your professionalism because it means you care. You don't exist in an environment without wanting to make it better. And that is a statement of professionalism. Most companies want employees who are not rocks, but who jump in, get involved, and if they see a problem, they try to fix the problem, address the problem, make the problem better. Okay? So volunteering is an important piece of this. But we still have other things that can go on your resume. Certifications. Ooh. No, certification is completely different from an accomplishment. Yep, but if you... Certifications sometimes don't correlate with education. Right. I mean, you can say you attended a CPR class, but being able to say you're CPR certified is significantly better than saying, I went to a CPR class, which consisted of old Tom back in the back of the room making grunting noises, and we had to breathe heavily. There's no control for a process if it's just, I showed up, I went to a class. Does that mean you went to one class? Does it mean you went to 100 classes? Certifications are important for your job career. Being certified in heavy machinery, certified in software, that will count when if you eventually get licensure, heck yeah, that's going to count, but by then your resume will be pretty huge. So you may not even need to include it. You'll probably put it actually in your name, that you're a licensed individual, because you get certain letters that you can put after your name with licensure. What? That would go under skills. Being bilingual or trilingual, or as my nephew puts it, a polyglot, does make you more hireable, but it is a skill. If you wanted to put that as a complete separate section, languages known, go ahead. But if you only have one thing to state there, like I know English and I kind of know some French, then you probably wouldn't. But yeah, I'll go ahead and say that. Okay. There's still a few more things. Well, at least one more thing. How's that? What else would go in your resume? No, I think we might hit everything. What?
The job you're applying for.
Yeah, you can't put that. Some other people will say, hey, let's throw references on here. I would not. It is currently advised that you don't do that. The issue with an objective statement or a statement about what job you're trying to apply for or references is that people typically use them as a way of filling up space in your resume so that you don't have to have actual resume content. Okay? And that's not the purpose of putting a column in here. Purpose of putting this in here is not to say, hey, I have a good space filler on my resume. It is to actually showcase your qualifications and your professionalism. Okay?
One of those if you have blank space on the paper. Like if you finish, you have a good chunk of blank space. Because likelihood is we don't have a lot of job experience at our age.
Sure.
That's bad, right?
But that's why you talk to guys like me who know how to pad resumes really well. Because I've been doing it my whole life. For other people mostly. Okay, what does this word mean? What does succinct mean? What?
In sync?
It's not in sync. It actually means something different than that. But that's good thinking. What?
Clear?
Okay. You're looking it up online, aren't you?
Me?
You are.
Nah, I don't got it. You can look.
Okay. What succinct means. Oh, that's too many C's. Wow, okay. I can spell words. I'm going to cheat off of myself. What succinct means is that you are clearly stating something in as few words as possible. Hey, if I were to describe to you what the perfect day is like, I could say the perfect day to me is 65 degrees, light clouds, light breeze, less than 5 miles an hour, and low solar radiation. Okay, perfect day. Or I could sit there and like, the sun is shining upon the eastern horizon. Yo, on horseback rides, myself. Across the plains, perfect day. You can use as many words as you want to pretty much say anything. But to be succinct is to be clear, concise, and really poignant. You hit the point, and that's it. You focus on what's relevant. When you go to write your resume, a good resume writer can fill up fluff from this. Okay? Not lie. Do not ever lie in your resume. Have people ever lied on their resume and had it work? Yes. It does unfortunately happen more often than I feel comfortable admitting. But I was even watching a show not too long ago where the guy working at a very high-end job admitted that he entirely made up most of his resume. Yes, you can do that. Do not do that. I don't want you to do that. I don't want you to. That it's extraordinarily unethical. And if you get caught, there's not a lot of ramifications. But it's just it's horribly unethical. Don't do that. It's bad.
What happened when you need to be cutthroat?
You need to cutthroat, but do it ethically.
I'm cutting your throat, but it's okay because I have morals.
Hold on. I got a certificate. This allows me to. That's ethicus. No, sometimes if you lie on a resume, sometimes you can't actually get sued. If you lied on a resume and you get the job, and it turns out your experience was a lie, your employer can sue you for libel. Well, not for libel, it's for lying. Don't do that, okay? So be cutthroat, but being cutthroat doesn't mean cut your own throat, okay? But you can be succinct, and when I say be succinct in this, I do not mean your resume should look like this. Blah, 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 content. Okay, if I look at your resume and I can draw the Mona Lisa over here. It's gorgeous, isn't it? She had straight hair. Shh. This is not art class. But if I can draw something over here because you left so much white space on your paper, this is a problem. Okay? This says a lot about your professionalism. You're being succinct, but to what end? Almost too much. So there is a sweet spot here in being succinct. In a resume, you don't want paragraphs. You want list format. You want it to be succinct, but you don't want it to be so succinct that there's white space everywhere, because white space makes you look blank. So what does a good resume look like?
It's cold, that doesn't like cold.
It's full. It is full of words. But, as you said, not full of fluff. It doesn't look like you are trying to write everything down that you ever thought in your life. But instead it looks like you have a very full and vibrant life. Most people, when they write their resumes, turn around and tell themselves, wow, I had no idea I looked this good. That's a good resume. I did that too. First few times I wrote a resume, it was like, wow, I had no idea I could fill. I had a very huge resume, but different story. You do tend to feel like you're a very competent person afterwards, which is good. But not fluffy, which is just made up stuff where you state things that don't matter. Okay? A good resume will also prominently display your name and contact information. Can't even write today. All right, so if I'm going to draw my perfect resume over here, well, the first thing that they look at on your resume, airplane view. You hand them a resume, they flip it up. The first thing they should see should be your name. Okay? Which means you play around with font sizes, you play around with font styles, bold, italic, whatever you need. You got to make your name stand out. Oftentimes it's done by putting it at the top of the page. You can left justify, right justify, center justify your name, doesn't matter. I have seen people do it on the left side. I don't like it, but you can. Yeah.
Do you write your full name or just like a middle initial, or how do you?
Well, how do you want to be addressed professionally?
That's no one should say. Good job.
Thank you. If you want to be addressed because your middle name is particularly special to you, then you'd write your full name. If you want to be addressed because maybe you have a common last name and you want some distinguisher, maybe you have a common first name and a common last name, then you would probably use a middle initial at the very least. For me, neither of my names are common. I don't use my middle initial or my middle name. I don't need to. It's not that I don't like it, it's just in a professional setting, it never comes up. So that's kind of the clarifier there. I don't think you're going to need to use your middle name. Your name is Mason, right? Yeah. Mason is not a horribly common name, but I doubt there's a lot of Mason Zimmermans around. So you wouldn't need to use your middle initial that way. Okay, good question though. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and say, for me, it means I'll use a slightly larger font right up at the top. Now, bad idea on a resume. Have your resume, have your name take up too much of your page. I have seen that too. I have seen somebody hand in a resume, it was for this class, they handed in a resume where their name alone took up a third of the page. Like, that's not professional. Okay, I can see your name from space, okay?
That's the first thing you can see.
Yeah, that's the first thing I can see, but that's one of those things where it shows up in their nightmares afterwards. Put your name in nice letters up at the top. Now you want to put your contact information really close to your name. If the first thing they see on your resume is your name, the next thing they will see on your resume is the contact information. Okay? You can put it down below, you can put it off to the left or right. If you're putting it this way, don't do that. Please don't do that.
You have to put it in comically small print right under your name.
It doesn't have to be comically small.
Comically large.
It needs to be readable. Okay? But you need to make sure that that's the first thing they see about your resume. Okay? Next thing that you want to make sure you do. Make sure that your organization is understandable. Lots of people put different categories down for their resumes that mean weird stuff. Okay? And a lot of people don't even know how to write resumes, so they just, I'm going to make this a category. This is my Beanie Baby collection from the 1990s. It's not relevant to most jobs, but they have it on there. If your resume looks like it was typed in Notepad, it's not a good resume, okay? Having distinguishment between what is a category and what is content for it is important. If I'm going to write about my education, and in that same line I'm just going to start paragraph writing about this, and then maybe, I won't even skip a line because my resume is so full, I'm just going to start talking about experience. This becomes really difficult to read. Remember, somebody needs to be able to read through your resume in 2 minutes. If they actually have to sit down and read every single word of your resume, they're going to hate you. Okay? A resume should be neatly organized such that you use bullet points, you are succinct, and everything is organized in such a way that it is easy to access information. Okay? Use your categories like bins. All of my discussion on education is going to be indented. I'm going to throw a don't in here. I'm going to put the year I attended, to year that I'm going to graduate. I'm going to talk about my GPA. I'm going to talk about my emphasis area, my major, my minors. I'm going to bring up all that information, put it right there. Okay, when I go to a new section, experience, I'm going to unindent it again because now it stands out. There are a number of ways you can do it. You can have a line that goes under. You can use an indent. You need some kind of physical way of identifying how different categories and how your resume is organized. Because if they look at your resume and they don't care about your being a college student because they already know, they're going to want to skip it over. And when they skip it over, they're going to want to know about the next thing. And if they can't find the next thing on the page easily, they're going to get frustrated. And it is going to say something about your professionalism. Okay? Writing a resume is not just putting words on a paper. It's about nicely and neatly organizing a document so that people can obtain information very quickly about you. It is a snapshot view of who you are as a person that makes them interested in wanting to do a follow-up interview to learn more about your qualifications, to learn more about your job experiences, your skills, how you've used those skills, how you've worked in teams, how you would fit in their company culture. Yeah.
So when listing the specifics of what you're doing at Dome, for example,
Right.
your major, would you put it in like a sentence, or would you just go intended major, colon?
That's what I would do. Very succinct. You don't have to read a lot. Okay? You try not to go with a lot of white space, but white space in those places are fine because it means they don't have to read tons of stuff. If you write this in paragraph format, it will come out really clumsy. If I were to write a script of my resume, it would be awful to read through. But as it is, just piecing through, I have a section on publications. Then I list my publications. In the summer of 1994, I decided to write a book on my preschool experience. I had it leather bound. And then once it was leather bound, I decided to title it My Experiences as a Preschool Student. If you start doing stuff like that, it's just painful. Listing it out, much more succinct, much easier to parse through. Okay. So other things that make a good resume, obviously, quick read. That's what I've been talking about. Succinct. Other things that make a really good resume is you want to make your resume, sometimes you want your resume to pop. Okay? Sometimes that means using color. Sometimes that means you don't just use printer paper, you actually use cardstock. A lot of people will print their resumes in cardstock. You laminate it, you're going a little too far in my opinion. But some people will. They'll laminate their resume. Anymore, you have to hand your resume in online, thank you COVID. So you don't get that option. Some people will put nice borders around their resumes. Some people like me hate borders. I used to love borders on my resume. I can't stand it. It's too much clutter. My resume has evolved with time. I don't like borders. I don't even like lines on my resume. Your resumes would be fine. You can do all that. But ultimately, you also want to emphasize your best qualities first. They're going to read through your resume, top, scan it down to the bottom. They'll probably pay attention to the things that you list first and the things you list last the most. Okay? So organization is also really important, making it quick to read, succinct, etc. Okay, you're also going to want to make sure you state dates. Not like relationships. That means for some people like me, it would be a little bit lacking. Yeah. Your resume sucks. You only been on 3 dates. You suck. I'm not hiring you. Rocket scientist.
That's just how engineering works, though.
Yes, I thought you expected that. No, but when it comes to dates, you want to talk about when you did things. When were you certified? That's important when it comes to certification. If you were certified in 2004, that certification is probably expired by now. Okay, if you were certified in Microsoft Office 2004, Microsoft Office underwent a massive change in 2007. Okay, and then went further massive changes in 2013 and 2017, which now it's a very different program than it was even 10 years ago. So if you were certified in Microsoft Office 2007, yeah, okay, maybe that's relevant, but probably not as relevant. Yeah. Show when you went to school, show when you were involved in activities. Part of this is being honest. Employers appreciate honesty, even if it doesn't make you look good. If you only worked at a place for 3 months, Employers appreciate the honesty. Plus, I also appreciate the honesty. Okay? All right. Any other questions on resumes? Yes?
Do you think that, like, for long employment gaps, you should, like, explain that?
Are you a student?
Well, I mean, even other than that, like, I don't know, say after college you were unemployed for like 2 years. Like, should you explain that?
You may have to explain that in an interview.
Oh.
They may ask you that as a question, but I wouldn't put it on your resume unless you actually had work experience in that time. Okay? Any other questions? Okay, your resume is due next week on Friday. Before you go, you can go talk to the College Career Center. You can set up an appointment with them. They will help you write a resume. Okay? However, they may also just tell you to come talk to me because they do that a lot. I have helped most of our students in our program help write resumes because this is something that I'm very passionate about. Also, I love organizing words. Words are fun. So, I don't know, I just have a weird passion for resumes. So if you need help with a resume, which you have to write one by next week, talk to me. I will talk you through it, okay? You will have to submit a resume in PDF format, which means you make it in Word, you make it as a Google Doc, you'll have to download it as a PDF, hand it in that way. Okay?
Cool.
All right. If you need help, talk to me. You have my office hours and everything. Have a good weekend, everyone.